First of all, the Cowboys and anyone around Dak need to be very concerned about his emotional state because he talked about dealing with some mental health things in the offseason, and this is very devastating. In that moment when he originally broke his leg and he like reaches down and tries to fix it like he can turn back time, like that desperation scared me. And as far as the contract concerned, Jerry Jones wasn't trying to give him a contract that Dak thought he valued or that Dak thought he deserved before he broke his leg, before he had this very devastating injury. I don't imagine how Dak Prescott can have any more confidence that the contract is coming now that he's already broken his leg. And I would say one last thing about Dak Prescott's situation is he's done everything he possibly could to put the pressure on himself, to bet on himself. At every turn, he said, you know what, I can show that I can play. And he's done that up until this point. I think he has 10 games of above a 90 QBR since he entered the league, which is the most of any quarterback in that time period. And he led the league in passing so far this year. He's done everything he can do. But it's now out of his hands. And as good a person as Dak is, I'm sure he's going to be rooting for Andy Dalton to play well and rooting for that team to play well. I ain't that good a person. And if I was Dak, or if I was Dak's agent, probably more realistically, then you're kind of rooting against Andy Dalton. Because the knock against Dak is that he's been supported by that running game back when they had it, by that offensive line back when they had a great offensive line. And now he's getting supported by these great playmakers that they have. And the idea is that maybe any average quarterback to slightly above average quarterback can do what Dak does. Right now, we're going to find out how true that is because that's what Andy Dalton is. Andy Dalton is an average to slightly above average quarterback. So to get back to the question, nothing about this situation makes me feel like Jerry Jones went from not feeling comfortable giving Dak the long-term deal he deserved to now all of a sudden, while his leg is broken, he feels like he wants to give him that deal. That's not the Jerry Jones that we've come to know.
Well, let's start. You just said a lot. I'm going to pick it all apart, Domonique. Let's start with Andy Dalton. That's something we agree with. Andy Dalton's pretty good, and it's not just that he has playmakers all over the field. It's that he's going to get healthy against the NFC East now. Like, they're going to play the NFC East a lot, so someone's got to win those games, right? Like, when you play Washington and the Giants, someone has to win. It's the someone has to win bowl, and I think the Cowboys and the Eagles, too, have a pretty good chance to win those games. It's going to make Dalton look even better versus Dak than he ought to. I would be more confident if I was Dak today than before Jerry Jones spoke. Because what Jerry Jones really said there is, hey, this is a business. We got to negotiate. We think we have something to negotiate against you with now, which is your health, which is a big kind of pillar of Dak's value, right? Dak is always healthy, best availability. Now that's gone. We're going to be able to exert pressure to negotiate downward. Domonique, the Cowboys reportedly offered him $175 million over 5 years. I don't know how much of that was guaranteed, but it was like $35 a year was their last-ditched offer. And reportedly, the counter from his agent was, we want $45 million in that last year. In other words, we think with the CBA changing more revenue, the salary cap going up, we could get an extra $10 million. And against that $10 million, they were willing to risk the entire guarantee of the contract, and it came back to bite them. Now, if Dak makes a full recovery, there will be suitors for his services, right? There are a bunch of teams around the league saying, if we had a better quarterback, a more dynamic quarterback, a more reliable quarterback, a quarterback with better leadership skills, we could take it to the next level. So there will be bidders. That will keep his value relatively robust, right? But the injury will take it down a little. And so I think what Jerry Jones is saying is, remember that contract we just offered you? Maybe that doesn't sound so bad now. Maybe if you do want the 5 years, you get paid maybe not even the 35 that we just offered, but the original offer, which was in line with Goff and Wentz and not Russell Wilson. I don't hear a guy ready to move on. I hear a guy ready to negotiate in Jerry Jones.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that he's necessarily ready to move on, but I don't think that Dak would think that his value has gone down. The injury was ugly, but the injury is not something that you can't come back from, especially playing that position. Like, we look at Paul George as an example, who had a gruesome break to his leg. He came back like nothing happened, playing a sport and playing a position, frankly, that requires a little bit more pressure on your lower extremities than playing quarterback in the NFL would. So I don't think that Dak thinks his value goes down. I think that Jerry Jones Jones might think he has some leverage on Dak, but I'm not sure that Dak feels he should, and I'm not sure that he doesn't. And to your point originally about Dak's stats, I use QBR for that reason. Like, I understand the passing numbers, you can say it's in garbage time, but QBR takes that all into account. So Dak Prescott is a top-of-the-league type of quarterback. The difficulty we run into when we talk about Dak Prescott is we look at people like Lamar Jackson or like Patrick Mahomes, and we compare him to them. He ain't them, but he's better than just about everybody else. Like, he's not Aaron Rodgers, but he is the next tier, and that is hugely valuable and tough to find.
Or Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, too. He's not them, but that doesn't mean he doesn't deserve to get paid like them because his leverage suggests that he deserves that amount of money. Because the Cowboys' other option...
No, but wait a minute.
Go ahead.
But hold on. I'm just not used to when I say, wait a minute, someone's stopping talking. It caught me off guard, Domonique. But like, I understand what you're saying, and that's the way it works. But in fact, I believe quarterbacks are overpaid to begin with as a percentage of the cap, right? You got to rob Peter to pay Paul in the NFL. And so if you look at the Carson Wentz or the Jared Goff deal, in retrospect, you could say, I would argue, those were mistakes, and yet they're willing to pay Dak along those lines, and that's the class that came in together, and that's the debate that still goes on. Who's the best among those three, right? Even if Dak I would put in the lead right now, there were times where the other guys were in the lead so far, and they offered him more than that deal. They said, forget about getting paid like your contemporaries, where you haven't even established definitively that you're the best of the group or will be the best. We're going to pay you like you're Russell Wilson, and his agent said not good enough. Now Jerry Jones is saying maybe that is good enough.
It's not fair.
I think that what Jerry Jones is signaling is his desire to keep Dak and his willingness to negotiate. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.